plans, Dan. The Bears rotating out their centers, Ryan Bates and Coleman Shelton. I mean, obviously, both of them having some level of familiarity at that position. What's your take on that? I mean, you mentioned obviously having depth. You're going to need two centers. You heard Eberflus say that. Do you feel like, in watching that one is passing your eye test a bit more than the other?
I mean, I think in their ideal scenario, Gabe, that Ryan Bates is your week one starter and carries that job as long as he can. They feel like they've got an insurance plan there in Coleman Shelton, and we've seen here in Chicago that when you have to make changes at the center position, it can get a little bumpy. And so I think they've learned some lessons on, okay, we better make it less bumpy if we can, and have an ability to go that route. David and I have talked for weeks now about how critical it's going to be to find a cohesive offensive line as soon as possible, just to make sure that every possible source of comfort you can provide Caleb Williams is solidified as he walks into the regular season. And so look, like, we've got 3 months before they play a game that really matters. And all of this stuff in the summer and into training camp is about just solidifying yourself, solidifying your depth, solidifying the things that you need to have as an offense to get off to a successful start, and particularly get off to a successful start when you have a rookie quarterback.
Keenan Allen spoke for the first time since the day he was traded or arrived, so this is the second time we've heard from him. And I think he was pretty honest about the fact that, the chemistry between a quarterback and a receiver takes time, especially when you're dealing with a rookie. Work in progress is the way that he phrased it. What was your impression, your biggest takeaway from hearing Keenan Allen?
Well, look, Keenan's new to us, and so you're kind of learning these guys, and I really enjoyed. I think it was about 14 minutes we had with him yesterday. Just the open and honest back and forth in the media room of him being willing to share some of his experiences from the NFL and how they translate to a brand new start here in Chicago, the first time he's changed teams in the NFL. And he talked about just kind of understanding each other's energy and the need for him and Caleb to spend a lot of time together here, both on the field, in the meeting rooms, and then obviously away from the facility, to just get a feel for how each other ticks and develop that rapport and that chemistry, so that when the games do matter, you're on the same page and you have that vibe and you can challenge each other and you can bring out each other's competitive fire in ways that's productive for the team. Caleb Williams is going to have a tremendous asset with Keenan Allen being able to run routes for him on third down, and understanding how crafty and savvy he is and being able to get open. And you saw a flash or two of that yesterday in practice. And then you've got obviously DJ and Rome elsewhere on the field able to help him out. I think it's going to be really fun to kind of watch this 10,000-yard receiver walk into Chicago and try to put a rookie quarterback under his arm and show him the ropes a little bit. Both Matt Eberflus and Keenan yesterday talked about their respective experiences with Phillip Rivers as their quarterback in Indianapolis and for Keenan in San Diego, and they sense that Caleb has a similar competitiveness to him and a similar confidence in his arm to be able to make plays that other quarterbacks can't. And so now you just kind of have to help him understand when to make those plays and when to just find a check down or find a release valve and live to see the next play.
I think a lot of people will lean on the Keenan Allen injury kind of narrative more so than anything else. But, since 2017, David, because I know you're one of these people, he's averaged 14 games a season, 97 catches a season, and 1,100 yards a season since 2017, despite the couple games that you might have thought he might missed. Who do you think is going to have the most touchdowns this year of the three receivers, Dan?
Ooh. It's a really good question. I would probably put the odds-on favorite as DJ Moore. I think that he probably will be the priority when you get down in those areas. We'll see how it works. I did say this yesterday, that watching Rome Odunze up close, I called it attention grabbing, the fluidity and athletic explosion and speed that he has. And even when you're just running routes on air, there are things he does where you're like, whoa, that's a different kind of movement for a guy of that size. And so I think the Bears are really, really eager to kind of feel him out here in the next 2 weeks here, and then they'll have the break. And then when they get back into training camp to figure out, okay, what's the most suitable role for him in the early stages of his rookie season? Because there's some athletic gifts here and some things that he showed in college that you want to tap into as early as possible in the NFL. And so I'm just looking forward to seeing more of him too, because it's such a new shiny toy that you get to kind of play around with and figure out how he works best for you.
All right, Dan, before we let you go, who started the fight and how long did it last?
A dust up. We were not calling it a fight because I don't think there were any punches thrown. There was a little skirmish. It felt like DeMarcus Walker's voice was the loudest in there. I don't know if he was entangled with Braxton Jones when it got going. It was probably about 45 seconds, as you guys know, in the spring and then the parts of training camp. Whenever there's any sort of skirmish that flares up, everyone gets all excited and stands on their tiptoes to find out what's happening. It really wasn't a whole lot. I do think that this defense, as we've talked about, is playing with an edge right now, is feisty, is willing to talk. And I think it was Keenan Allen said that they look like a top 5 defense and they sound like a top 5 defense because they're sure chirping a lot at practice. And that's something I think the Bears coaches like to see as they try to become the unit that carries this team out of the gates here in 2024.
Great stuff, Dan. Have a good time up there today at Hallis Hall.
You got it. Good talking to you guys.
Dan Wiederer from the Chicago Tribune and the Take the North podcast.